Hi everyone, I'm Ben from Drunken Adventurers, and today I'm going to be unboxing the Kickstarter edition of Dreadball. Dreadball is a futuristic sports game produced by Mantic Entertainment. It was successfully funded in August 2016 on Kickstarter. And first impressions of the box. I love the box art. It's very eye-catching. It's definitely, if this falls through to retail, I think this will catch many eye on the shelf, which is something that unfortunately I don't think the first edition box art actually did. The spine art on the side is of the same theme, so look great on my gaming shelf, easily identifiable. And on the back of the box, there is no normal retail backing, which I actually quite like. Instead, we've just got a dulled out Dreadball. I'm a fan of that for two reasons. One, often a Kickstarter edition of a game will come with a standard retail bottom of the box, which isn't indicative of what the actual content is, because it usually contains Kickstarter exclusives. And two, I am probably not going to be keeping the base components of this game in this box anyway. My first edition of the game, I threw out the box, just kept all the components separate. All the teams were in their own separate cases. So really, I'll probably be looking to fill this box with the components that I need to just grab, start a game, and just grab a team box. So overall impressions of the box, I love the art. Not a fan of the Kickstarter backer logo. I would prefer that that wasn't there. I think that kind of spoils it. But I do love the art. We've got the two new teams on there. So this is the Neobot team. They are the Draconis All-Stars. And we have an Indige team, the Ninth Moon Tree Sharks. The Indige, previously we've only had them available as an MVP for the Azure Forest. And the Neobots are a whole new Dreadball team, which I guess replaces the human team in the original first edition set. So overall, love the box, love the size of it as well. It's got some bulk to it. It's quite sturdy as well, quite a thick card. So quite like the box. Before I open the box though, I will point out that the box did not actually contain the Dreadball rulebook. The rulebook is very well presented, nice glossy pages, very crisp clean art. This Dreadball rulebook includes the main rules, the Dreadball Ultimate rules, Azure Forest expansion, and it's also got all of the teams. So all first edition teams from the 6 seasons are in there, and the 4 new teams for Dreadball are in there as well. I'm a bit disappointed it's come as one book. We were originally promised as Kickstarter backers that they would come in 3 separate books: the rule book, the ultimate rule book, and the team roster. Main reason I'm disappointed is when I'm playing Dreadball, I don't really want to be flicking through a big book. I would just like something that's there for quick reference. I will say though that there is a reference sheet on the back of the book and on the inside spine, so you can quickly look stuff up in the book. But it's too bulky for me to be carrying around if I'm travelling with Dreadball. And secondly, if amendments are made to the teams, new teams are added, I would like to have just been able to replace a team book with an updated version, rather than having a big rule book that has defunct teams in it, or doesn't have all the teams in it rather. So I would have preferred them as separate, in all honesty. But the actual quality of the rule book is fantastic. It's even got some Dreadball fans miniatures in there as well, which I think is a nice touch. But enough of the rulebook, we'll get onto the box. Not quite the first time I've opened the box, to be honest, because I have unwrapped the cards in there. I wouldn't give you all the injustice of waiting while I unwrap the cards. So on top of the box, we've got the new Dreadball pitch. This pitch is double-sided. It includes the standard Dreadball pitch and the Dreadball Ultimate pitch. I am a bit disappointed that my copy is quite scuffed, a little bit dog-eared, does have some dints on it, which is a bit disappointing, so I will be getting in touch with Mantic to see if we can get a replacement for that. But if I just get the board out, on the one side we've got the standard Dreadball pitch. There's a lot more going on there than in the first edition of Dreadball. This is more in line with the deluxe Dreadball pitch that was released, the Tech Coliseum. We've got some additional things on the pitch now. So we've got the card deck events, dispose piles. We've got cheerleader slots on there. We've got action tracker, so once you've used an action on a player, you put it on their player number so you know that they've had an action, 2 actions, so on. We've got some spots on here for some more support staff for the coaches. We've got space here for our Dreadball cards. The pitch also has, which I think is a nice touch, it has a random scatter marker now, so you will always scatter the ball in the same direction when you're looking to see where the ball, which direction the ball's going to head in. Not really a bone of contention with the players that I played with, but sometimes there is a bit of confusion about where ball's scattering, if it's bouncing off of players, if a player's down, and if a player's victory is hinging on the ball scattering in a certain direction, someone might be a little bit hesitant to take someone's word for the direction it's going in all the confusion. So it's nice to just have the consistency of it's always going to scatter in the same place. It's something that you could have house ruled anyway, rather than it always being in the direction of the player, but it's just nice to have it on the board there for reference. On the other side, if I just fold this out, on the other side we have the Dreadball Ultimate pitch. Dreadball Ultimate is a variant of Dreadball where you will play with up to 6 teams, 6 players. The size of the teams are slightly smaller than the standard Dreadball team, and you will have less actions. In Dreadball, you'll have 5 actions. In Dreadball Ultimate, you'll have 3 action tokens to spend on your team. There are multiple balls, so there'll be 2, maybe 3 balls in play at a time. There's a tug-of-war scoring system is still present as it was within normal Dreadball, but you'll be able to choose which team you want to take the points away from. So looks quite good. There is additional team benches in the box, which I'll show you in a moment, that players will be able to have in front of them to put their action tracker on, support staff and so on. So going back to the box, so we have a new roster sheet. The roster sheet itself is on quite glossy paper. It's got a nice feel to it. It feels like premium quality. It could have just been standard low grade paper that you just write on, tear off. Probably after a few games, write up again because it's come all messy. This, I think, will survive quite a few games in the league before you have to write a new one out. You'll see on here we've got the new agility stat added on there. We've got an experience track, as experience has changed in the way it's awarded. Each one of these black boxes indicates an advancement when you hit them. So, nice quality roster sheets. Here we have the team benches I was talking about for Dreadball Ultimate. So each team will have a team pitch in their colour. So this is a green one. We have the cheerleaders, the coaches, action tracker, the card deck, they're Dreadball cards. We've got a subs bench, we've got the injury bench / sim bin. So there's one in there for each player colour. We have some Dreadball cards. So I've already unsealed these. So this pile here is the new Dreadball deck, which places the first edition. We have action cards, and we have special cards. I will say, first impressions of these cards, I do like the presentation of them. I think nice, clean and crisp. I think the first edition cards maybe had a bit too much going on with random player numbers. That's not an issue in second edition. Now we select the players that are affected by these. I think overall they just look a lot more easier on the eye. My only criticism is I've only had these unwrapped for a day, and I don't I don't rate the card quality that much. It's very thin and they mark very easily. I'm going to sleeve these up because I think after a few games they will get a bit scuffed. And I don't want to be in a situation where I know what the next card is on the pile because I can recognise the scuff mark. So I'm going to sleeve these up and just give them a bit more life. Because like I say, I've only had them unwrapped for a day and already they are getting a bit scuffed. So that's the new Dreadball deck. We've got some additional cards in here. I'll grab these out. So we've got some cards in here that will be used for Dreadball Ultimate. So in the bottom corner here, we've got the Dreadball Ultimate logo, so we can identify which cards need adding and removing depending on what type of game we're playing. We've also got some cards in here for the team captains. So Dreadball teams now can hire a special player position, which is a captain, and the captains will have a deck of cards that they'll be able to utilise for additional benefits for the teams. So there's team captain cards in there for the 2 new teams. Sorry, the 4 new teams. We also have some action tokens. So these action tokens are plastic and acrylic. We've got white and red here. They've got the Dreadball logo on. I think this is a nice touch. Replacing, in first edition, the retail edition only had cardboard. I would like to see these being included in the retail version of the second edition. I think it would be a nice little touch. Just give a bit more of that premium board game feel to it, rather than just standard cardboard tokens. So we've got some tokens. We've also got some dice. So white and red for home and visitors, and blue for coaching. On the subject of doing away with cardboard tokens, we have some new score and rush trackers. So we've got here what looks to be a Dreadball trophy that will be used to mark either the rush or the score. I personally would be using it for the score because the second one is what I believe to be the DGBI. So in the fluff of Dreadball, you would have a ref on the pitch, but you'd also have this floating eye as well, keep an eye on proceedings. And if the ref misses something, then the idea is that the DGBI would also pick it up. These are soft plastic. This one does need a bit of recovery. Just put it under some hot water, bend it back into shape. But I do love these sculpts, and the fact that we've got plastic tokens to mark the score and the rush is do away with cardboard counters. It's great. We also have a new refbot model. So this is the new refbot. I'm just focusing on that. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the new design. I'm just not sure what's going on with the head, but new ref model. We also got a tracker marker here for identifying when a player's been affected by a Dreadball card. So you put that on the player's base or by them, so you know that they're currently being affected by one of the Dreadball cards. And we've got some new Dreadballs. Now these new Dreadballs, I do think are a bit fiddly. They're a lot smaller, well not a lot smaller, but they are smaller than the Dreadballs in the first edition of the game. You'll notice that they actually have a peg on them because they have a separate base that they would slot into. So when the ball is loose on the pitch, they'll be in that base, and then when picked up by a player, new Dreadball hex bases will have a hole to put that ball in. I'm not sure how fiddly that's actually going to be in the game or not, or whether I'll revert back to my first edition balls, some of which I've magnetised. But I think it's a nice touch for new players to the game to just be able to just plonk that into the Dreadball bases. On the subject of new players, we've got 2 new teams. So as I said before, the 2 new teams in the base game are the Neobots and the Indige. First thing that strikes me about these teams is that they are now in coloured plastic, so each team is easily identifiable. The Neobots here are in red, and I'll pick some of these up just to have a look at the sculpts. The other thing that strikes me about them is that they're all single piece models, so there's no assembly required someone can pick this game up on the retail shelf, take it home, immediately open it up. There's no prep at all, obviously, other than reading the rules, but they can immediately get this onto the table. They can play a few games, get used to the rules. They don't need to bother getting out the glue, clean up the models, gluing them all together. Probably want to glue them onto the Dreadball bases. I personally will be painting these up. But the actual detail on the models is quite impressive. Let's see if we can get this to focus. I think I'm quite looking forward to painting up these teams and bringing out some of this detail a bit more. But the actual poses, they're quite dynamic. The fact that they're coloured plastic and all one piece, I think, is a big boost to the Dreadball experience for new players. And in the interest of balance here, we've got the Indage team. So they're in green coloured plastic. I will say that the Dreadball teams are actually in hard plastic, unlike the score and rush markers. I imagine if you have only got any bends on them, the hot water will still do the trick. And again, the Indage team, quite a lot of detail in these sculpts, and yeah, quite look forward to painting these up. And so that's the contents of the Dreadball box. I'm just going to remove all the components in here so you can actually see the box itself. So there's various different sized inserts in here. At this moment in time, I don't know how everything fits in there. I do have a second box that's got the remainder of my pledge in there, that does have some additional pieces in, which I imagine will fit into this box. I don't know whether this is going to be the same for retail or not, but what I'll do is I'll open up the second box, and after that I'll try and put everything back into the box and see how it all fits in. Okay, so this is the second box that my pledge came in. In here we have got two new teams. So we've got the New Eden Revenants, which are a Cyborg team, and these are also in single piece coloured plastic. So these are the New Eden Revenants, the Cyborgs. We've got a human player there with some cybernetic enhancements. We've got a Nameless, and we've also got a Marauder here. So I think out of all the new teams, these ones that intrigue me the most, and I think will give me the most fun while painting. So we've got New Eden Revenants in here. We've got 3 bags in here, just like in the main box for the other two teams. We've then also got the Mastodons. So these are a big lizard Dreadball team. I think out of all the sculpts, I think these ones probably have the most detail, or at least the more popping detail, but that might be down to the colour of the plastic, with it being a light tone. But again, we've got 3 bags of those. So I'll put them to one side. We have some team captains for the 4 Dreadball teams. I won't get all of these out, but there's the Mastodon team captain. I don't know how I feel about them not being in the coloured plastic to match their teams. I guess them being in this dark grey plastic makes them easily identifiable as the captain for the teams, and the teams are diverse enough for you to easily identify if there's 2 team captains on there, which one belongs to your team. There's also some Kickstarter exclusive coaches in there. I think they are Fergus and Tracer. So that'll be Tracer there with the trench coat and afro. And we've got Fergus there as well. We've got some new Dreadball bases. I'll just open this one up. So as you can see there, we've actually got a hole at the front of the base where we'll be able to put the Dreadball in. You'll also notice that 3 of the edges are serrated to denote the fret hexes of the players, which again I think is a nice touch. You don't need to paint up the base to denote where the fret hexes are. because the idea is that the front facing of the model and each facing to the left or right is a fret hex that the player is projecting. So if it's unclear which way the model's facing, at least then you've got the identification of what are the fret hexes. Got some more dice. So these are more premium Dreadball dice that were offered to us. One thing I have noticed, rather annoyingly, is that the Dreadball logo on the dice, I would have expected that to be the 6. It is actually the 1, which is a bit annoying. Especially if you backed Dreadball Extreme, you had Dreadball Extreme dice in that, and the Extreme logo was the 6, so you'd kind of expect that trend to follow through on these as well. I think I will probably not use these because I'll probably be rolling them and see the Dreadball logos and think that I've got exploding 6s when I don't. We've got some more action tokens. So these are for use with Dreadball Ultimate. So there's less of each of these in each colour. There's only 3 because you only get 3 actions in Dreadball Ultimate. But that gives you enough then for 6 teams, along with the 3 of the red and 3 of the white, for you to use those in Dreadball Ultimate. Also, we've got some coloured Dreadball trackers. So this is to track the score in a game of Dreadball, and I cannot open this. Don't know why. There we go. So we'll use these to actually denote the purple team score and so on. So that's a nice touch that we've actually got some Dreadball Ultimate score trackers. We've also got some dice cups, dice shakers. I really like these. I love the embossed logo on them. It's actually fabric, it's got felt inside. So there's 2 of those, which I think would be a nice touch. I don't know how much use they're actually going to get, but it's a nice thing to have. We've also got a Dreadball dice bag as well. Feels good quality. I'm not sure I'm a fan of what appears to be an iron-on logo. I would have maybe preferred that to be actually stitched into it, but it's a dice bag. I did also back, I did also have included in my pledge the Azure Forest expansion. So these cards are from Azure Forest. Again, same card quality as before. I don't know if you can quite see it on there, but you can see there's some dints on the cards. So I'm going to have these all sleeved up. So got some new cards for the Azure Forest. The Azure Forest is actually included in that big rule book. And I've got Azure Forest trophy as well, which is quite nice because I didn't have this Azure trophy before. It didn't come in the Azure edition of the base game for the first edition. I've also got some deluxe mats. I won't get these folded out, but this is a deluxe mat for Dreadball Ultimate, and I've also got a deluxe mat for the Azure Forest. So it's just standard Dreadball, but with a different pitch on it. But so that's the contents of the second box of my pledge. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually try and put this all into the main box and see how far I get with actually filling it up. Okay, so I put the components back into the box, or at least some of the components. So just to run through with how I put the pieces back in the box, I've got my 2 teams in here. Now, as I said before, I probably wouldn't be keeping my own teams in there, but I might actually change my mind on that for transport. You wouldn't get a full roster of 14 players in there. I've stood them up like this because in reality they're going to be glued onto Dreadball hex bases. So I reckon that's probably about how many players you would get in there for each team. They do stand up in these. The clearance, there's enough clearance there to lay the board on top. Although if you're a bit worried, I'll probably maybe just put a sheet of paper over there to prevent the scuffing of the game board. I've put the dice up here, and down here we have got the Digby Eye score tracker, or rush tracker, whichever way you use it around. We've got the score marker, I guess it is the rush marker. So this is the score marker there for standard Dreadball. In here I've got assortment of Dreadballs plus the Dreadball token notification marker. Down here I've put the score trackers in for Dreadball Ultimate. In here we've got the Dreadball Ref, we've got Dreadball Ultimate counters in there, we've got the standard Dreadball counters there. This card deck here is the standard Dreadball cards. This is the Dreadball Ultimate and Team Captain cards. I'd probably keep the Team Captain cards separately, but if you've got two of the teams in here, obviously stick them in there. And this third one is for the Azure Forest expansion, so it's gone on there. With those in there, I will put the team sheets for Dreadball Ultimate and the rosters in there. And then, well, in fact, I'd probably slide the roster pad over just so these models aren't scuffing the Dreadball board, and then put the board in. And unfortunately, as I said before, there isn't enough room left in the box for the rulebook, which is a bit of a shame. But with all those in there, the lid will go back on. There we go. So in that box now, I've got 2 Dreadball teams. I've got everything needed for a game of Dreadball, everything needed for a game of Dreadball Ultimate, with the exception of the Dreadball rulebook, which I'll have to carry separate. So that's my overview of Dreadball 2nd edition. Overall, I'm very pleased with the product. I'm disappointed that the rulebook came as one big book rather than the 3 separate books we were promised. I think that's a decision that maybe came late in the Kickstarter campaign, or rather in production, and hence why it doesn't actually fit inside the box. I'm also perplexed as to why the Dreadball pitch, when folded up, isn't the size of the box, because as you can probably hear, the pitch slides back and forth. Yeah, that big foot there, that was the Dreadball pitch sliding around in the box because it doesn't quite fit the footprint of it. But minor gripes. I think the product overall is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to hitting retail. I just hope that some of these Kickstarter elements make it into the final game. I want to see the plastic components. I want to see Dreadball Ultimate included in the base game, because Ultimate is a fantastic variant of Dreadball. It's great to play with 6 other coaches. It's just pure mayhem. People have to change the tactics, playing up against 5 other teams. And I just hope it makes it through to retail. And I think Mantic are missing a trick if they don't. If they release it as an expansion, fair enough. But I think the reason why Ultimate didn't get a lot of plays before is because it was an expansion. I think if it's in the base game and promoted as core Dreadball, then maybe more people will play it. I also hope that when it does hit retail, that there's going to be a lot of promotion of this game, because when the original game released, I never heard of it. I found it in a bargain bin in my local gaming store, and that was disappointing because it's a fantastic game underneath. It's probably one of my favourite board games of all time, and I just hope that we see a presence in local gaming stores for Dreadball when we get around to the retail release of 2nd edition, because we never had a footprint here in the northwest of England, and I suspect that was probably the same throughout the world. Dreadball was a large unknown, and it does have a great following on Facebook, such as Dreadball Fanatics, and there is a tournament scene for the game. It's just not promoted that well. So I'd love to see this have the kind of presence that Blood Bowl and Guild Ball does, because it is a fantastic game and it absolutely deserves to compete with them. But overall, fantastic product, and I look forward to hitting retail, and thank you very much for watching.